We're now going to draw a set of steps or a set of stairs in 1-point perspective. We're going to start with a high horizon line, and we're going to decide whether to put our vanishing point on the left and our stairs on the right, or our vanishing point on the right and our stairs on the left. Let's get started. I've decided to put my steps in the bottom right-hand corner and my vanishing point in the upper left. I drew a vertical, and then I drew a horizontal, and that will indicate the back of the steps and the bottom of the steps. I'm now going to draw a guideline in, which is going to be a diagonal line. Now, up until this point, you'll remember that I've told you that we could only use horizontals, verticals, and depth lines in 1-point perspective. That's still the case. The line that I've just drawn in here, that is in red, is a diagonal guideline. Now, diagonal guidelines are very, very good to use, but they are not actually part of the steps themselves. So let's just remember that. So let's go on. I'm going to take this back area, this vertical line, and I'm going to measure it, and I'm going to divide it into sections. I'm trying to make sure that each of these sections is exactly the same. When you draw them, you're going to draw them as tiny dots on the line. I'm drawing them a little bit larger so that you can see them. I'm now going to go ahead and put in the steps themselves. I'm going to slide up my T-square, and I'm going to take the point, this first point up, and I am not going to draw this line. I'm doing it as dots for you now so you can understand where I'm coming from. I'm going to draw out there. That's going to be my first step. So you don't actually have to draw these lines that I've just erased there. Slide up the T-square once again, and we're putting in our second step. And we're going from that diagonal line out, and then we have the third step, and we draw out, and then the fourth step, please don't forget this, we need a final step at the top. So at this point, we have now completed drawing 4 steps, but they obviously don't look very much like steps at this point, because the next thing that we need to include is this, the risers. The step is the part that we step on. The riser is the part that rises off the back of the step. So now we're going to concentrate on putting in the risers for these steps. All right, so how do we put in those risers? Well, it turns out that it's very easy, because just like everything in 1-point perspective, it goes horizontal, vertical, and depth. So in order to create the risers, obviously the risers have to be vertical. So we start at the bottom of the wedge, and we draw a vertical up. Now we find out why that red diagonal line was so important. We're now going to go back to where the step came out of that vertical line, that diagonal line, and then we go up again. And then we go back to that line, and we go up again, and we go back to the line, and we go up again. Now you can see what the function of that diagonal line was. That's where your step meets your riser. After you're done doing that, as you can see, I am getting rid of any overhanging lines for my steps. Now at this point, everything that we have is right there, vertically aligned with our bodies, so we don't have any depth. We're now going to add depth. As we know, anything that goes back in space is going to be an orthogonal. It's going to go to the vanishing point. I warn you in advance that the lines that I'm going to draw now are probably not going to be perfect orthogonal lines. As I've said before, it's practically impossible to do that on an iPad. So I'm going to draw these the best I can on your papers. They should be orthogonal. So now I'm going to go from the bottom of the steps back to the vanishing point orthogonally. Then I'm going to go from the front of my step orthogonally. Then I'm going to go from the inside orthogonally. Then I'm going to keep on going and keep on going. The idea is to draw all of these orthogonals, and it's very important that you don't skip any, because if you do, it'll be impossible to do the steps. Now you can see that these lines are not actually orthogonals. They should be going right to that vanishing point there, and they are not. For this demonstration, that'll be fine, but on your papers, they must all go right to the vanishing point, which is where the horizontal and the verticals cross right there. All right, let's go on. In order to complete the steps, we need to look, as always, between the orthogonal lines. So let's look at the orthogonal line that we have here and the top of the first riser. If we look over at this area, we'll see that there's a vertical line where this line and this line end. And so we go to the back of the steps and we draw a vertical. Then we go up one more and we can see that over here, this is a horizontal. So how do we do that now? Well, we draw in a horizontal. Then we draw in a vertical, horizontal, vertical, horizontal, vertical, horizontal. When we're all done, we grab our eraser, and once again, we erase any overhanging lines using an eraser shield, if you like, which would come in really handy here, but there's no such thing on an iPad. But you would shave these all down so that there are no overhanging lines at all. And when you're able to get rid of all of those lines, you can take a look at the steps and they will be, in fact, done. All right. Putting these back in for you, and you can now see that we have risers right here. And the steps right here. All right, go ahead and try drawing steps either over here, or if you prefer, you can, as I said before, put your vanishing point there and draw your steps here. Don't forget, when you put in that diagonal line, it's not part of the steps. It is only a guideline. Running through it one more time. We put marks on there, make sure that they are all evenly placed. Step, 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 and don't forget the top. Go up, go back to the diagonal. Every time, go back to the diagonal. If you don't, you're going to be wrong. Then, after that, we draw lines that are orthogonals, orthogonal, 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 and just keep going. And then the last part is to draw vertical, orthogonal, vertical, orthogonal, vertical, orthogonal, vertical, orthogonal, and there you have steps going in the other direction. Go back and shave this all off, and assuming that you do this with good workmanship, you will have something that looks like it's a lot more work and a lot more detail than it actually was. If you have any questions, be sure to ask. Good luck.